Hi, I'm Tony Fackery and thank you for joining me today on this video blog titled Why Things Work Out in the End. And there are 3 points that I wish to emphasize today. And ultimately, why things will always work out in the end is because life has a system of its own. It has a revolving and also an evolving system which takes place of its own accord. And so effectively what we need to do is to step back and distance ourselves mentally and emotionally from what is taking place in our life. And these 3 points will emphasize that ideology. And so the first point is things always have a way of working out since our problems are temporary. And that's an important component. We become so invested and so caught up in a situation or in a condition that we feel that we're in the eye of the storm. And naturally that's so. I've experienced it and I'm sure you experience it and others have experienced it at certain points of their life. So what I'd like you to consider is that we assess life from a narrow perspective. Now I don't mean that in a untoward situation, but rather we have a limited perception of what is taking place, because we are caught up in that situation. If you were to ask a friend or a loved one or a co-worker to assess your situation, they'll often comment that it's not as grave or as serious as we might see it or believe it, but because we're invested in it mentally and emotionally and it's our life, then we see that, or we perceive rather, that there is something untoward happening. And the following points will put those pieces of the puzzle together. So we can appreciate that these are only minor elements in a larger scheme that is working behind the scenes. And what I mean by a larger scheme is that life is a process. There is a process to life. Now often we may not be privy to that process until a later point in time. But everything evolves, everything naturally happens of its own accord. But what we need to do is suspend our mental and emotional investment until that situation or condition actually plays out. And the second point is then we must take a long-term view of life if we wish to find happiness in our everyday circumstances. And the key point here is that if we become invested in a problem that is taking place now, then we get caught up in that situation. And so once that situation has passed, as it will, we then become caught up in the next problem and then the next problem. And as you can no doubt see in your life, you have different facets to your life. There is your health, your career, your finances, your relationships, your social setting. Now, every time a problem occurs in each of those facets of life, if you were to react to them, then you are pulled by life. You are dragged by your problems. Rather, if you step back from the problem or the issue and create a space around you, create a distance and assess it from a perspective or a distant perspective, you can see that it's only one minor role. So for example, if you receive a speeding ticket for driving too fast, there may have been a car accident further up the road or something dire or untoward which might have occurred further up the road. So the speeding fine itself is in fact a precursor to help you to slow down, and it's the universe's way of alerting you to impending danger, but also to gather vital lessons, and that is to slow down in general. So the aspect here is that we need to slow down. We need to bide our time and allow life to play out, allow situations and circumstances to naturally unfold, and suspend our emotional and mental judgment before the greater picture and greater plan takes place. And so the third point is, don't judge your life based on current circumstances, because this is one facet of it. And so again, whilst you shouldn't ignore short-term setbacks, explore the key lessons that they represent. Often a delay is not necessarily a denial. So if you're hoping for something, hoping for a relationship, hoping for money, hoping for a career, whatever it may be, the fact that you don't have it does not necessarily mean it won't come. And so if you bring your preconceived ideas from the past where you've seen evidence of that in the past, it doesn't mean that it applies in this situation. And so we detach, we remove ourselves, we distance ourselves from a desired outcome, and we allow everything to unfold in a perfectly orchestrated manner, and that there is a meaning contained within each event, within each circumstances, within each condition. Now, that meaning, again, we may not be privy to that meaning in that very moment. So if you receive that speeding fine, the meaning may not be there right then when the police officer issues you the infringement notice. Yet a day later, or days later, or a week later, the actual scenario may play together and the entire picture now forms to alert you to why you received that speeding fine. And here's another version. You may never uncover the meaning of that event, because ultimately we bring our own meaning to events to make sense of our lives. So sometimes events don't actually have meaning. And it was Carl Jung who said sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. And what he meant by that is that sometimes things are just as they are, devoid of meaning and symbols, but it's we who attach meaning to things in order to satisfy us, in order to make sense of our lives, because we are meaning-making machines. We need to know why things happen to find our place in the world. So there we go, 3 points on why things always work out in the end. I trust you've enjoyed this video. Thank you for continuing to subscribe to these videos. When I'm inspired to create a video on a topic, I will do so every now and again. But I really thank you and applaud you for continuing to tune into this channel. And once again, my name is Tony Fakhri. Thank you once again.